So if you want to boost your FPS from this to this, so this is going to be a complete test and comparison of each and every graphic settings present in AC Shadows. We're gonna find out the best possible graphic settings for your GPU without sacrificing graphics. In the end, I'm going to provide my own optimized settings to help you with performance without losing much of graphics quality. So without wasting any further time, let's jump into it. So first of all, we got our upscaling quality. The game offers varieties of upscalers like FSR, XESS, TAA and DLSS. Unfortunately, I cannot test DLSS because my GPU don't support that. But in my testing, XESS performs the best compared to FSR3, and they both look same in the quality as well. So of course, go with the XESS for the best quality and performance. And this game also have TAA as the upscaler. That also looks good, same as FSR, but performs a little bit slower than the XESS. So overall, XESS is the way to go if you can't enable DLSS in your GPU. The game also provides us with the AMD FSR3 frame generation implementation, which works real good. To be honest, the frame generation in this game works really good with almost no noticeable input lag, and it boosts your FPS real good. And the AMD FSR3 frame generation will work on every GPU as well. So next we got our textures quality, and this is simple. This will determine how the textures will look on objects, surface and buildings, and this is totally VRAM dependent setting, so just simply put as high as you can depending on your VRAM. If you have VRAM limited like 4GB, 6GB graphics card, keep them low and try to go higher as your VRAM can allow. Next we got the terrain quality, and this will basically determine how the level of detailing will look when you see on the ground and the surface area. However, in my testing I find out that even on ultra, very high and low, it looks almost the same and performs the same as well. Even I restarted the game many times, but it all looks the same on the ground. So I'd recommend using high, very high or ultra, as it does not seems to be affecting FPS here. Next up we got our deformation settings, and this will only change the level and detailing of snow when you walk on it, and unfortunately I cannot find enough dense snow in this game to test this, and this has no direct performance impact, so you can leave it on low, medium or high, whatever. Next we got the virtual textures, and this will determine the level of detailing you will see on the ground and surface areas, and here we can see the performance difference between low, medium and high, where the medium and high performs the same, so whether you use high or low depending on how much performance you can give and what is your VRAM. So next is the scatter density, and this will basically determine how dense the forest and foliage will load in the game. But in my testing, for some reason, even after restarting the game 2 times, I cannot find any difference between the visuals and performance between ultra and lowest option. Maybe this is glitched or what, but for now leave it on whatever you like. Next in the volumetric effects we have the clouds quality, and for some interesting reason even changing from low to medium decreases FPS significantly, and so in my opinion leave it on low because you are not even seeing on the clouds while playing the games, which makes this useless. And the same thing goes for the fog quality, where I cannot find any difference in my playthrough, so it's best for you to keep it on low to avoid performance drops. Next is the hair strands quality, and this basically determines the level of detailing of hair of your character and the characters around you, and this is a pretty important setting because by just enabling it from off to on we get around 5 FPS drop, so I recommend keeping it at off for performance, where the hair do look slightly better if you on it. It's up to you, but most probably I would recommend keeping it off. Next is the characters quality, which will affect the quality of characters around you and what shadows they cast. However, in my testing I did not find any FPS difference between low, medium, high and very high quality, where the FPS remains the same, but when I switch to ultra we can see the performance is slightly hit from 44 to 40 FPS, so I recommend keeping it on high or very high to avoid performance drops in crowded areas. Next in lighting we got screen space effects, which will affect the quality of screen space reflections, and here you can see there is no difference in performance between low and high, so just leave it on high so the game don't look dull or empty. Shadows quality is the single most important setting in the entire game, which affects the most amount of performance. Here how the shadows looks on low and the performance, this is how it looks on medium, where we got almost the same performance as low. This is high, where we get around 4 FPS drop. This is very high, which almost performs the same as high, and this is ultra, where we get the most FPS drop, almost 15 FPS compared to low versus ultra. And here for a reference, a comparison of shadows between low and ultra. So I highly recommend keeping shadows on medium for performance and high if you can, and do not select ultra at any cost. Next is the light source quality, which should affect the overall lighting in the game, especially in night and around the fire. But in my testing, like many settings, I cannot see any difference in performance, so leave it on high or ultra. Next, in the geometry settings, we got three options: loading distance, drawing distance, and micropolygon quality. And these all three options will determine how far and detailed objects will load in the game when you see from distance. And micropolygon is to avoid textures popping, so set it to medium or high depending on your VRAM. So here in the drawing distance, we can see there is no difference in performance, but however, if you are limited with CPU, try using lower settings, and if you have enough CPU, you can use ultra. And next is the loading distance quality, which will basically determine how more detailed the objects will load when you see them from distance. And here is slight FPS difference from each preset, so I recommend using very high or medium. If you are looking for performance, use medium or use very high or ultra, as all of these settings have very little performance gap between each, so you can choose any one of them. Next is the post effects quality, which will basically add a sun rays visible to your screen and do nothing more than that. So I recommend keeping this on high, because when you set post effects on high, you can disable the chromatic absorption blur, which I recommend keeping this effect off if you don't like it. So the first three options in these games are related to ray tracing, and unfortunately we cannot disable the ray tracing completely in this game, as the game has the software based ray tracing. So if you don't have a RTX GPU like GTX or any older, I recommend keeping them all on low and default for the best possible performance. And unfortunately I cannot try these because I don't have RTX GPU, so I will skip the ray tracing options. So the particles quality again do not have direct performance impact and will only change how the rain looks during rain weather, so you can keep it on whatever you like. So finally, after testing all of the settings, here are my recommended custom settings for budget GPUs to run the game with best possible graphics and frame rates. Use Intel XESS on quality instead of FSR, as I shown earlier, and frame generation works really good here. Even though if you don't like frame generation, you can skip it, no problem. And keep the RTX options on lowest and default if you don't have the RTX GPU. And also make sure to choose the textures quality according to your VRAM, how much VRAM you have. Like if you have more than 8 GB VRAM, you can select high textures and the virtual textures as well. And that's all. Simply follow the settings. So here's the clip which you saw in the starting of the video. The game is running on very high preset with all RTX options on low. And this is with the optimized settings I just showed. We are getting almost double amount of FPS, and the game still looks almost same graphically. So that's all from this video in my opinion. I hope this was helpful to find the settings for your GPU, and this really took me time to make, almost 2 days to complete the video from recording to editing. So I hope this was helpful. If this was, subscribe to the channel and like the video. Thank you so much for watching, and bye. See ya.